So now that you have your bowl centered on the wheel, you're ready to begin the trimming process. The very first step is to get this surface to be flat and level with the wheel. It's probably a little bumpy from taking it off the wheel. So now I'm ready to trim this just to flatten it out. And I'm just going to use my large loop tool and have the wheel spinning at a medium speed, and just take that down to level. Now that it's leveled, I'm ready to mark where my foot ring is going to be. And what I'll do is I'm thinking about the outside edge of the foot ring, so this outside edge, and I want to mark on the bowl where that outside edge is so I can trim away this exterior. Thinking about the proportions of the bowl, how wide the rim is here, how wide of a foot do I want, and too skinny of a foot will make your bowl really topsy-turvy and not very stable. Too wide of a foot ring in your bowl will look heavy when it sits on the table. So there's a sweet spot, and that might be about half of the width of the bowl here, or maybe slightly smaller. I like to err on the side of making it a little wider than I need it, because then once that's trimmed away, I can check visually and see if I want to bring it in. If you remove too much clay at first, you can't get the clay back. So I'm spinning the bowl, and I'm going to draw a line. And that line is where the outside of my foot ring will be, and I'm going to remove this clay here. So using your large trimming tool, resting your hand on the bowl just in case it's might come loose, and using your large trimming tool to remove all of this excess clay. When you're trimming, you want the wheel to be spinning pretty quickly. See how the clay is just peeling away? That's ideal. If it's too wet, the clay will stick to your tools and stick to the bowl. If that's happening, you should wait and let your bowl dry some more before you trim it. And I can be pretty quick at removing clay here because I know there's a lot of excess clay. I know that it's quite thick. I'm holding down as the bowl spins by. I'm using this rounded edge of the tool to remove clay. Now I want to make sure I can see where that mark is that I made with my fingernail, and that's where I'm going to trim down, and I'll stop right about there. Here's my mark. I can trim some more. Now inside I remembered that there's pretty steep of a curve here, and right about where I made my mark is where that curve starts to come in. So I'm remembering that shape on the interior as I remove clay here. These lines that are appearing are from grog that's in the clay, or grit, and if you see that happening, you can clean your tool off and come back in. Now that I've removed a lot of clay on the exterior, I have this chunk of clay that's my foot ring. This is where I'm going to start removing clay on the interior. And at this point, I might use my needle tool to mark the inside of that foot ring. Then I'll leave it thicker than I want, than I think I want. Now I'll switch to my small loop tool and start removing that clay on the interior. Again, I'm resting my hand on the pot. I'm resting my hands together so I have a lot of stability. Wheel spinning pretty quickly. You don't want to press down too hard because that's soft clay and we're trimming it thin. If you are pressing downward, you might collapse that and go through. So I'm just using the edge of the tool and pressing down just slightly and allowing it to remove material. Now I remember that that bottom of the bowl isn't flat. It has a curve to it, so I want to create a curve on the inside of this as well. I also know that on the outside I was able to go this far down, so on the inside there I can go at least that far, or knowing that there's just a curved shape under there that I'm trying to echo. Once I've removed as much clay as I think I can on the inside, now I'll start to shape this part of the foot ring. There's a lot of different shapes you can carve. I would think about trying different foot ring shapes to decide what you like. Think about the shape of your bowl and what might look good. I like to carve the foot ring with a little bit of an angle, a little bit of a bevel. And what that does is when you set this down on the table, that the bowl will rest here and there will be a little bit of a lift that'll create a dark shadow. So I'll create a little curve to the top of that. Make sure there aren't any sharp edges, because sharp edges on the bottom of a pot will likely chip. Once you've removed as much clay as you think you need to remove, you will come in and finish the shape off with your different trimming tools. And then I like to use my fingers to compress the clay and shape it. You know, we threw the inside of the bowl and this part of the bowl with our hands, and while the clay was soft, so we can come in and compress this clay with our hands and hopefully have a consistent feel and look to the bowl. You can also use your rubber rib with a little bit of moisture to compress and smooth. So if I feel that my bowl is finished, I don't have any more clay to trim, I want to take it off and inspect it and make sure that I've actually removed the thickness of clay here that I want to. We want the whole bowl to be the same thickness as the wall is here. So what I'll do is I'll just take one of these away and then carefully remove my bowl. And now I'm going to feel the thickness here and see if I left any excess clay. And you can feel the weight of it. And it seems like I could remove a little bit more here. I could go a little bit deeper. So what I'll do is I'll put the bowl back into those two lugs. I will check to see if it's centered. We'll seal it back again. And then remove a little bit more clay here. Check your work again. Now that feels pretty good. If it was still too thick, I could put it back down and trim some more. And now this bowl, as long as I make sure that there aren't any nicks and bumps in there, I can come in and smooth some of those out. And this bowl is ready to slowly dry out. Keep it lightly covered, and then where I could apply a slip to it now or something, it's ready to be decorated and finished. And that's how you trim a bowl.